Your apartment is bigger. Switch with your sister. She's having a baby, my mom demanded. I pay $3,400/month. My sister pays $900 in a rent-controlled unit. I said no. They showed up with a U-Haul and started loading my furniture. I didn't stop them, just called the cops. When the officer asked for the lease and saw only my name's Caleb. I'm 32, the oldest kid, and the responsible one in my family. I own a small auto repair shop in the city. 10 years of busted knuckles, late nights, and learning how to do the books from YouTube and trial and error. I'm not rich, but I'm stable. I pay my bills on time, I have decent tools, I have health insurance. That kind of stable. I'm also the one everyone calls when a car makes a weird noise, a card gets declined, or somebody just needs help until next Friday. My parents still talk about me like I have it easy, because I work for myself. They say it like I'm sitting in a hammock counting money while my mechanics crawl under cars. In reality, I'm usually the one under the lift, and then doing payroll at midnight. My younger sister, Jenna, is 28. She's always been the baby, the sensitive one, the one who just needs a little more support right now. She's also 6 months pregnant with her first kid, which is exactly why my Sunday dinner turned into a full-on ambush. We were at my parents' house, like we are most Sundays. Mom had made roast chicken. Dad had the game on mute in the background. Jenna was scrolling on her phone 1 second, rubbing her belly the next. I was halfway through my first plate when Mom put her fork down a little too carefully. I know that move. That's her "I've rehearsed this speech" move. "Caleb," she started, voice sweet in that way that already made my stomach tighten. "We need to talk about your apartment." Before I could answer, Dad jumped in. "Yeah, buddy, it's time you stepped up as a big brother." That was the first flicker of anger. They only pull the big brother card when they want something. Jenna didn't look at me. She just kept tracing circles on her stomach. "What about my apartment?" I asked, putting my fork down too. Mom exhaled like I was being difficult already. "Your place is bigger. You know that. 2 bedrooms, big living room, nice kitchen, close to the park. Jenna's unit is tiny, Caleb. She's having a baby. She needs more space." There it was. Jenna finally glanced up, eyes watery on cue. "I'm just really stressed about where the baby's going to sleep," she murmured. "The crib barely fits in my room." I felt my jaw clench. "Okay, and what does that have to do with my apartment?" Mom stared at me like I'd missed the obvious answer in a second-grade math problem. "You switch with her," she said, like it was already decided. "You're alone. You don't need all that space." Dad nodded. "Your sister's starting a family. You should support that." I stared at them, then at Jenna. She wouldn't meet my eyes now. "You're asking me to move out of my apartment," I said slowly, "so Jenna can live there instead?" "Not asking," Mom corrected. "We're saying it makes sense. It's the right thing to do. Family first." Something in my chest tightened. Not rage yet, just this cold, familiar pressure. I swallowed. "No," I said. "I'm not switching apartments." The air at the table shifted. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "I said no," I repeated. "I'm not doing that." Jenna finally looked at me then, and there it was, the first real trigger of the whole mess. She shook her head and whispered, "Wow, I guess the baby doesn't matter to you at all." And my mom, without missing a beat, added, "You've always been selfish, Caleb. I hoped you'd grow out of it." That was the moment I felt it, the line I didn't know existed yet, the one they were about to sprint across. And none of us had even mentioned the rent numbers yet. That part came later. The thing about my family is, they don't remember anything I've done for them, or they pretend not to. I moved out at 19, not because I hated them, but because I got offered a job at a small mechanic shop across town. Old school owner, paid in cash for a while, but he taught me everything. I rented a tiny studio above a laundromat. Bed, mini fridge, hot plate. That was it. No help from anyone. Meanwhile, Jenna stayed home. My parents paid for her cosmetology school, then a second program when she dropped out of the first one because the vibe was off. Then they covered her car insurance, her phone bill, and probably more I don't even know about. When I finally opened my own shop at 26, it was in a rough area with cheap industrial rent. I slept on a mattress in the back office for the first 6 months because I couldn't afford both the shop and an apartment. My family visited once. My dad did a slow walk around the bays, nodding like he was inspecting a used car. Place is something, he said. You sure you don't want a real job? Mom wrinkled her nose at the smell of oil and brake cleaner. This is why you're always dirty. No wonder you don't have a girlfriend. But when any of them needed their car fixed, I was suddenly our hard-working Caleb. Just look at it real quick, they'd say. Family discount, right? Which usually meant free. I didn't complain. Not really. That's what you do for family, right? You help. It was the same when Jenna found her rent-controlled one-bedroom. I was the one who co-signed her first lease because her credit score looked like a joke. I was the one who paid off her old credit card so the landlord wouldn't freak out. Her place is in an older building across town. Tiny, slanted floors. Bathroom that looks like it came out of a 1970s horror movie. But the rent? $900 a month. In this city, that's basically a unicorn. My place is different. I moved into my current apartment 3 years ago. 2 bedrooms, lots of light, decent building, 20 minutes from my shop. I picked it because I was tired of mice, mysterious leaks, and neighbors screaming at 3 in the morning. The rent, $3,400 a month. It's a lot. But my shop got busier. I hired another mechanic, and the numbers worked. Barely, but they worked. No one cared when I signed that lease. Why do you need 2 bedrooms? Mom had asked when she first saw it. Seems like a waste. Jetta laughed. You're such a show-off. The second bedroom became my office. A desk, a beat-up couch, some shelves with parts catalogs, and a whiteboard covered in numbers. It's where I did payroll, ordered supplies, and sometimes crashed when I came home too tired to make it to my actual bed. Fast forward to now. Jenna gets pregnant. Her boyfriend Tyler is a part-time bartender with big ideas and no solid plan. They fight, break up, get back together, break up again. Right now they're taking a break, which means he pops up whenever he needs somewhere to crash. When she told us she was pregnant, my parents went all in. This is a blessing, Mom kept saying. We all have to support Jenna right now. We somehow meant me. I bought new tires for her car so she wouldn't slide off the road this winter. I paid for a tune-up she couldn't afford. I slipped her grocery money when Dad hinted they were tapped out this month, and every time I did, Mom would squeeze my arm and say, "See? This is what family does." 2 weeks before that Sunday dinner, I started noticing the way conversations shifted around me. I'd walk into my parents' house and hear whispers in the kitchen. Mom would step out, all smiles too fast. Jenna would slam her phone face down on the couch. I caught snippets. Can't raise a baby there, it's too small. Caleb doesn't even use that extra room. You know he'll say yes if we explain it right. I wanted to believe I was mishearing. Then one night Jenna called me out of nowhere. "Hey," she said, bright and fake. "How's my favorite big brother?" "What do you need?" I asked. She laughed. Wow, rude. Then she talked for 10 minutes about baby names, how unfair maternity clothes prices were, how tired she was. I waited. Finally, she slipped it in. Do you ever feel like your place is just too big for you? There it was. I shut it down. No, Jenna, I like my apartment. I need my office. She got quiet. Then she sighed and changed the subject, but I knew that wasn't the end of it. So when Mom dropped the "you switch with her" line at dinner, I wasn't shocked, but it still hit like a punch. I tried to stay calm. You're asking me to move from a place I've lived in for 3 years, move my entire life, my tools, my office, my routine, so Jenna can have my space? Mom rolled her eyes. You make it sound so dramatic. You're a single man. You don't need that much room. Dad chimed in. Think about it practically. Jenna stays in the city close to the hospital, the park, good schools. You take her place. You save money on rent. Win-win. My jaw tightened. You do realize what I pay, right? Mom waved a hand. Something in the 3,000s. I don't keep track of your finances. And Jenna pays $900. Silence. Dad shifted in his chair. Yeah? So? It evens out. You make more money. Exactly, Mom said, seizing on it. You own a business, Caleb. You can handle it. Your sister can't. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair apparently meant I give up the apartment I worked for. I keep paying $3,400. Jenna keeps her $900 rent, and somehow I'm supposed to manage the mental gymnastics where that makes sense. I laughed. I actually laughed. Short and ugly. No, I'm not doing that. Jenna's eyes filled with tears instantly. She's always been able to cry on command. I'm bringing a child into this world, she whispered, and my own brother won't even help. Dad's face hardened. You know, we didn't raise you to be this selfish. Mom shook her head like I'd disappointed her on a deep spiritual level. When you were born, Caleb, we dreamed you'd be the kind of man who took care of his family. I guess we were wrong. That one stung more than I want to admit. Because here's the thing, I do take care of my family. I always have. I've fixed cars at midnight, lent money and never seen it again, dropped everything to bail them out of their own messes. But somehow, in their minds, none of that counts. Only the things I say no to. When I left that night, Mom didn't hug me. Dad barely grunted goodbye. Jenna didn't look up from her phone. My phone buzzed later with a text from Mom. Think about what we said. Jenna's due soon. Don't be stubborn. I stared at it for a long time. I could feel it already. Pressure building, guilt coming, some small compromise that would suddenly be massive. What I didn't know yet was how far they'd already decided to take it. The breaking point came a week later on a Thursday. I'd just finished a brutal day at the shop. Transmission rebuild, angry customer, parts delivery delayed. I smelled like oil and sweat and exhaustion. I pulled into my building's parking lot around 7 p.m. and saw something that made my brain lag. A U-Haul, parked crooked in front of my building, hazard lights blinking. Back door open, my first thought was, guess someone's moving. Then I saw my dad step out from behind the truck, my mom, Jenna, Tyler, and my couch, my actual couch. The ugly gray one I'd bought secondhand when I moved in. It was halfway down the front steps, legs scraping, my heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I killed the engine and just sat there for a second, hands tight on the steering wheel. There's a weird calm that happens when something insane is happening in front of you. Your brain goes, no way. Even as your eyes go, oh, it's happening. I got out of the car. Hey, I called. What are you doing? Everyone froze. Mom turned around, eyes wide, then quickly narrowed. You're home early, she snapped, like I'd walked in on them doing something normal. My dad straightened up, breathing hard. We figured you'd be late. We were trying to help. Help who? I asked. By stealing my furniture. It's not stealing, Jenna said, huffing as she adjusted the box in her arms. It was my kitchen box, the one with my mismatched mugs and knives. We're just getting a head start. A head start on what? I demanded. Mom put her hands on her hips. On the move, Caleb. Don't be dense. We told you this is what needs to happen. You weren't taking initiative, so we set it up for you. My laugh came out sharp. You rented a U-Haul and broke into my apartment. Dad lifted a set of keys. Spare key your mother had. It's our key too, you know. We're family. Something inside me went very still. Get out of my apartment, I said quietly. Mom rolled her eyes. Oh, stop being dramatic. We left the big stuff for you. We're just moving what Jenna absolutely needs first. The crib's going in your second bedroom, then her bed. It's my second bedroom, I snapped. My apartment, my lease, my name. Jenna's face twisted. You're seriously doing this? In front of everyone? Over a couch? It's not about the couch, I said. She snorted. You can afford new furniture, Caleb. I can't. Grow up. Tyler, who had been suspiciously quiet, finally spoke up. Man, it's not that deep. You've got the money, she's got the baby. It's just logical. Logical. They were casually rearranging my entire life because, in their heads, my income made their choices my responsibility. The old me, the one who swallowed it, who tried to keep the peace, was screaming in the back of my mind to just let it go. But there was a new voice now, louder, colder, and it said, no, this stops here. I took my phone out and, without another word to them, walked past my own couch and up the stairs. Mom shouted after me, where are you going? Don't you dare call this landlord drama, Caleb. I didn't answer. I stepped into my apartment. Boxes everywhere. My drawers half open. Closet ransacked. Stuff I'd neatly organized now tossed into random piles. The crib was already in the corner of my office. My desk had been pushed aside. My torque wrenches and invoices were stacked on a chair like trash. They'd rewritten my space like I was a guest in it. My hands were shaking as I dialed. Not from fear, from adrenaline. 911. What's your emergency? Yes, I said, voice weirdly calm. I need to report a break-in and attempted theft. The people are still here. The dispatcher asked the usual questions. I gave my address, described everyone, explained they had a spare key but were removing property without my consent. Are they family? She asked at one point. Yes, I said. And no, she said an officer was on the way. I took a few deep breaths, then walked back downstairs. Mom was mid-lecture. And if you just stopped thinking about yourself for 5 minutes, you'd realize the police are on their way, I said. Silence. Jenna almost dropped the box she was holding. You called the cops? On us? Mom's mouth fell open. You're insane. Dad's face went red. You don't call the cops on your own family, Caleb. You don't break into your kid's apartment and start moving his life out with a U-Haul. I shot back. Mom took a step toward me, finger jabbing the air. We raised you. We fed you. You owe us. You owe your sister. That baby is more important than your stupid couch and your precious office. There it was again. You owe us. I didn't respond. I just leaned against my car and waited. The minutes stretched. Mom kept ranting. Jenna cried. Tyler paced. Dad muttered about ungrateful kids, and back in my day. The squad car pulled up. Lights off. 2 officers got out. One older? Evening, the older one said. Who made the call? I raised my hand. I did. Mom immediately jumped in. Officer, this is all a misunderstanding. We're family. The cop held up a hand. Ma'am, I'll talk to everyone. Sir, he turned to me. Step over here and tell me what's going on. I explained. Calmly. They had a key but no permission. They were removing my property. They were trying to force me to move so my sister could have my apartment. The officer's eyebrows went up slightly at that, but he didn't say anything until he asked, You mentioned a lease? Yes, I said. Upstairs? On my desk. We went up. I stepped around the crib, grabbed the folder with my lease, and handed it over. He flipped through it, nodding. All right, so you're the sole tenant. No one else on here. Correct. We went back down. Mom looked smug for some reason, like she assumed the officer would tell me to stop being a brat. Okay, he said, addressing the group. I've seen the lease. This apartment is solely in Caleb's name. That means he decides who goes in, who goes out, and what gets moved. Not you. Mom blinked. But we're his parents. Doesn't matter, the officer said firmly. Right now, if he wants you off the property, you leave. If you keep removing items after he's told you to stop, that's theft. If you stay after he tells you to go, that's trespassing. Jenna's face crumpled. So you're picking his side? The younger officer spoke up. There are no sides. There's just the law. He's the legal tenant. Mom turned on me, eyes blazing. You do this to your mother? Over a lease? Over an apartment? Over stuff? I met her stare. My voice came out steady. I'd do this to anyone who thinks they can walk all over me and rewrite my life without asking. Even if they gave birth to me. Dad shook his head, disgusted. You're pathetic. The officer cleared his throat. All right, let's wrap this up. You folks need to put his property back where you found it and leave. Now, if you don't, we can continue this at the station. Tyler mumbled something under his breath but set down the box. Dad started hauling my couch back up the steps, grumbling. Jenna sobbed the entire time, loud and dramatic. I can't believe you're doing this while I'm pregnant. Do you want me to lose the baby? Is that what you want? I didn't respond. Mom, carrying one of my lamps, hissed as she passed me. You'll regret this. When you're old and alone, don't you dare come looking for us. The officers waited until everything was back inside and my front door was locked. Then they had my parents and the rest of them step away from the building. The older officer came back over to me. You want to press charges? He asked quietly. I hesitated. I thought about the baby, about holidays, about every future interaction being filtered through. He had us arrested. No, I said finally. Not tonight. I just want them gone. And I want it on record. He nodded. It is. I'd recommend changing your locks and maybe setting some real firm boundaries. I almost laughed. Yeah, I think we just found them. As the U-Haul pulled away, my mom leaned out the window and screamed, "You're dead to us, Caleb!" For once, I believed her. And for the first time in my life, the idea didn't scare me. The next morning, my phone looked like it was trying to explode. 23 missed calls from Mom, 11 from Dad, 9 from Jenna, a handful from random aunts and uncles I hadn't talked to in months. The family group chat was a mess. "Mom, I can't believe you called the police on us." "Dad, you humiliated your mother." "Jenna, I was shaking so hard I thought I was going to pass out. Hope you're happy." "Aunt Lisa, whatever happened, I'm sure you could have handled it privately." Then the guilt hooks. "Mom, we gave you life." "Mom, you owe your sister more than this." I stared at the screen, the old familiar shame trying to claw its way back in. Then I remembered my couch in the U-Haul, the crib shoved into my office, my mom saying, "You owe us." I muted the chat. At the shop, I told my foreman, Luis, the simple version. "Family drama. Might be a little distracted today," he snorted. "Family will kill you faster than a bad timing belt." Business didn't stop because my family lost their minds. People still needed oil changes and brakes. I still had bills to pay. At lunch, I finally called my landlord. He already knew. "Your neighbors called me last night," he said. "Said there was a moving truck and shouting. Everything okay?" I explained. "All of it." He was quiet for a moment. "They were trying to move your pregnant sister into your unit?" "Yep. And you'd be the one paying the higher rent." "Pretty much." He let out a low whistle. "I've seen some things, but that's new." "Look, I'm glad you called the police. They had no right to be in your unit without your permission, spare key or not. I'll be changing the building codes tomorrow, and I'll note your file. No one gets keys to your place without your direct written approval." "Thank you," I said, and meant it more than he knew. Before we hung up, he added, "For what it's worth, I'm also the landlord for Jenna's building. Same company, different property." That made me pause. "Oh, yeah," he said. "Her rent-controlled unit is tied to her tenancy. Not guests, not family. If she'd tried to move out and keep her name on it for you, that would have been a problem. I hadn't even thought that far. I'd been so focused on my own place, I'd forgotten how shady their little plan really was. I'm not switching with her," I said. "Just so we're clear," he chuckled. "Trust me, I figured that out." "You're fine, Caleb. I've got your back on this." It was weirdly comforting to have a landlord be more protective of my rights than my family. That afternoon, Jenna showed up at my shop. She didn't text first. She just marched in, belly first, ignoring the employees only sign and the fact that we were actively working on a car. "Caleb," she said loudly, hands on her hips, "we need to talk." Luis glanced at me. I gave him a tiny nod. He wiped his hands and disappeared into the back. I stepped away from the bay, wiping grease off my fingers. "You can't be back here," I said. "It's not safe." She rolled her eyes. "Spare me. I'm not made of glass." Her eyes were already shiny with tears. "How could you do that to Mom? She hasn't stopped crying since last night." I sighed. "Jenna, you tried to move into my apartment while I was at work. We were just trying to fix things before the baby comes," she snapped. "You know she stresses easily. You know she doesn't handle conflict well. And you called the cops on her." "She broke into my home and started moving my stuff into a truck," I said. "That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime." Jenna flinched like I'd slapped her. "She's your mother, and I'm her son," I said. "Not her property." She shook her head, tears spilling now. "You're punishing the baby. That's what this is. You don't want my child to have a good start." I stared at her. "Do you even hear yourself? I've bought you tires, groceries, paid your bills. I co-signed your lease. I've helped every time you called. But because I won't give up my home for you, I suddenly hate your baby." She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Do you know what your rent is?" I asked. "Like the actual number?" She blinked. "Of course, 900. And mine?" "I don't know," she muttered. 3,000 something. You have a business. You can afford it." "It's $3,400, I said. "Every month, plus utilities, plus insurance, plus everything else. And I'm supposed to pay that so you can live in my space, while your rent stays at 900. She bit her lip. "When you say it like that, there's no other way to say it," I cut in. That's the reality. You're not asking me to help, Jenna. You're asking me to fund your lifestyle and your kids, and probably mom and dad's too. Her shoulders slumped for half a second. Then she straightened. You know what? Forget it. You've made your choice. Just remember this when you're old and nobody visits you. She turned and walked out. I watched her go, feeling weirdly calm. The next few days, the wider family campaign kicked in. Texts like, "You only get one mother. She's not perfect, but she loves you. Is an apartment really worth losing your sister over?" One cousin sent, "You called the cops because some furniture got moved?" That's extreme, man. I didn't send the photos of my ransacked office. I didn't send the audio recording I'd taken of mom saying, "We're doing this whether he likes it or not." I didn't send the lease screenshot. I stopped explaining. That was maybe the biggest shift. The old me would have written paragraphs trying to make them understand. The new me realized they didn't want to understand. So instead, I focused on my life. I changed my locks, put a small camera by the door, and told my landlord no, one came up without my okay. Then I blocked my parents' numbers, silenced Jenna's, and muted the family chat. That first night, my phone stayed dark. No drama, no guilt paragraphs. The apartment felt weirdly empty but calm. I sat in my office, now crib-free. Tools where they belonged, files in order, whiteboard full of ideas I'd never had the energy to touch. For the first time, I thought, what if I put all the energy I've been bleeding into them back into my own life? So I did. I ran a promo at the shop, posted more online, traded a website design for a big repair discount. Work picked up. I hired a part-time receptionist so I wasn't juggling phones with greasy hands. She color-coded the schedule and told walk-ins, "No, we can't just look at it for 2 minutes without apologizing." At night, I went home instead of fixing Dad's truck for free or dropping groceries at Jenna's. I cooked, cleaned, watched dumb car videos, actually rested. The world didn't end. A month later, a voicemail from an unknown number. "Caleb, it's your father. I had to use the landline because you blocked me like a child. Jenna's landlord sent her a notice about unauthorized occupants. She could lose rent control. This is all because of your stunt with the police. You need to fix this." Translation, they tried more games with her apartment and the landlord shut it down. I didn't call back. My aunt emailed, "Your mother is very upset, not in good health. She says you screamed at her and threatened to have her arrested. Please apologize so she can heal." I remembered standing by my car talking calmly while the officer explained trespassing. Closed the email, no reply. 2 months after the U-Haul mess, my regular, Maya the nurse, came in. She lingered while I finished her car. "You look lighter," she said. "Lighter? Last year you looked like you were carrying the world. Now you just look normal tired." I laughed. "High praise. Whatever you changed, keep it," she said. On impulse, I asked if she wanted to grab coffee sometime. She smiled. "Yeah, I would." Walking back to my apartment that night, I realized my life was still hard. High rent, slow days, shop stress. But without my family yanking every loose thread, everything felt simpler, cleaner. Like finally working on an engine nobody else had already torn apart with the wrong tools. I didn't get a big final showdown. No hospital screaming match, no tearful hug over a crib. I found out my niece, Lily, was born from a Facebook photo. Welcome to the world, Lily. Surrounded by so much family and love, I wasn't in any of the pictures. The old guilt tried to flare, "You're missing everything, you're the bad guy." But then I heard my mother in my head. "You owe us. You're dead to us." And it clicked. To them, I'd never really been a son, just a resource, a walking wallet with extra square footage. My worth was how much I gave up. The second I stopped, I became selfish, so I chose that, not cruel, just protective of my time, money, home, peace. I sent one text, "I'm glad Jenna and the baby are healthy. I won't discuss the apartment again. If you ever want me as a son and not a bank, you know where I am." Then I blocked her.